So today we are joined by my garden helpers to take a look at how and why we divide perennial plants. So effectively, dividing plants, perennials specifically, means we're going to dig them up and we're going to split them so we can have more plants. Free plants, who doesn't love them? Now, it might sound kind of scary to dig up your perennial plants and tear them apart effectively, but trust me, your plants will actually be thanking you for doing this. This is essential to keep them looking amazing over the years. So as perennial plants get older, a good example is this Nepeta actually, is they will start to get too big and they'll start to split in the middle. And we don't want that. We don't want them looking all straggly. So a really good practice is actually to dig them up using a fork like this, and then using a sharp sort of tool so that we can cut them, divide them into multiple plants. And those plants that we have divided, we can put them wherever we want. The original clump we can put back where it was so that it'll continue to grow and look great and expand upon next year. And then all the little bits we've divided, they can be put elsewhere as new plants. You could even give them away, you could do whatever you wanted with them, but it's a fantastic way to get free plants for your garden without growing anything from seed or doing anything with cuttings. So I really love it. So the best time to divide your perennial plants is sort of very late summer, early autumn, or really any time through autumn. Effectively, what you want is for the ground to be quite wet. If you're in the peak of summer and your ground is still very dry, don't do this. The reason why you want to save it for when the ground is wet is so that when you basically are digging this up and putting it back in the ground and such, you don't have to worry about constantly watering it to keep it alive. You can effectively let it get on with itself, and especially the ones that you've divided and the new little clumps you've put out, they will do a lot better because the ground will be wet. It'll give them a much better chance to start growing again for next year. As they say, autumn is a fantastic time to start growing plants and such and preparing your garden for next year, and the same definitely applies to dividing. Now, I know a lot of people feel very scared about dividing their plants. Digging up a perennial you really love and tearing it apart, it does seem really daunting, but trust me, this will reinvigorate them. This is actually something that is recommended because they'll be so much better next year. So yeah, definitely do this when we get to sort of very late summer, autumn time. They're going to thank you. So the plant we're going to be focusing on is not actually this Nepeta over here, but instead, it's really hard to see. There is another Nepeta here. Can you see it? Now, the reason why you might not be able to see it so well is because it really blends in with this big plant, which has completely taken over and filled up this space. So this Nepeta really doesn't actually need to be here at all. It doesn't really need to be divided in the sense that it's sort of gone, I don't really know, it's split in the middle or anything like that. That's fine. The Nepeta still looks fine, but it's not doing well because it's being covered up by this and other plants as well. So we really want to dig it up to put it somewhere else. And as I'm doing that, I can show you how we can divide this one Nepeta to make a ton of free plants. Now, it's a pretty simple process. We're effectively just going to make sure we can actually see the plant. And there's the base of the plant down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my fork right in at the base of the plant. And I'm just going to push down. As you can see, it goes in nice and easily because the ground's quite wet. And we're going to just get it really deep in there so it's really firm in the ground. We're underneath all those roots. Don't worry if you damage some of the roots slightly. The plant will be fine. These plants are really tough. Perennials don't mind being dug up and roughed about a bit like this, so it's all good. And then, now, some people would probably do this a bit better than I am, and they would actually go around the whole plant and dig up. That is probably a better way of doing it, but I'm just doing it lazily and just digging it up with that one go. So as you can see here, being extra rough and taking my time. I don't know if those two are really compatible, being extra rough and taking my time, but I kind of am. I just want to make sure I get all of the roots up. I say all of the roots, you don't have to get literally every root up. In fact, you're not going to because it's just impossible, but just get it up as much as you possibly can so that you've got a lot to work with and the plant will, be easily divided. So as you can see, it has been dug up. This Nepeta is no longer in the ground. I'm going to kind of shake it off a bit. Again, don't need to be too gentle. These plants are tough. I just want to get as much of that dirt back into the ground as possible. But there you go. We have a beautiful Nepeta and now this big sort of bit in the ground. But don't worry, this guy next year will do its job. We can fill that in, but the main thing is we've got our Nepeta here in a big clump with loads of roots attached, barely any left in the ground. So now that we've got our plant up, we can divide it. So this is known as the cat mint, and you can see why cats absolutely love it. This is my cat Kiwi. She's obsessed with Nepeta. It is a great plant and it's so easy to divide, but this really applies to any perennial plant. You can do this with pretty much all of them. You know, there are so many different types out there that you might want more of in your garden, so this is why you divide them. And we're going to use a solid garden tool like the shovel to effectively split it. Now this is a pretty decently sized one, so what I'm going to do here is go right to the middle of the plant. It doesn't have to be precise, but the middle as I can, and I'm going to push down on it with my shovel. Now it might seem very harsh what I'm doing, but trust me, this is exactly what you want to do. And then I'm going to split it. It can be kind of tough, especially if the roots have dried out, but don't worry, your plant will be fine. And there, you can tear them apart and have 2 clumps of Nepeta. You could even tear these even more, so you've got 4 clumps. I'm just going to leave the 2 for now. But as you can see, now I have 2 plants. Now, when you first put these back in the ground, they're probably going to die off a little bit, but next year they're going to look absolutely amazing. And what you've just done is given yourself some free plants. Not spent any money, not grown anything from seed, not done anything with cuttings. You've simply taken what you've already got in the garden and just merely divided it, which is one of my favorite things to do. Like I said, I know a lot of people can be a bit anxious about it, which I do understand, but it is so worth doing in my opinion. Now, of course, with our original divided clump, if we were just doing this to rejuvenate the plants, we can put it back in the ground where it was. But for any of the bits that we've actually divided and we've got new plants of, now we can put them in the ground. So simply do what you would do anytime you're planting a plant. Create the hole, put it in, cover it up, maybe add a bit of compost just to give it a little bit of extra something, and yeah, that should be fine. Do give it a bit of water to start off with. Even if the ground is wet, I still recommend doing this. It'll help settle the ground. So yeah, that's as simple as it is. If you want lots of extra free plants, divide them. And also, if you want to rejuvenate your plants so they look amazing next year. So generally, a good rule of thumb when it comes to dividing your perennial plants is a lot of them like to be divided every 3 years or so. I mean, you can use the rule of thumb that if they are sort of split in the middle, that works as well. But yeah, if you want to go with every 3 years, that's a good way to rejuvenate your perennials. A really good example of a plant that does this is geraniums, hardy geraniums. So these will really start to get massive by the 3rd year, and they really will start to split in the middle. So you'll see a big opening, and that's a good time to divide them. And then you can get a ton of new plants from doing that. So definitely one of the absolute best to divide, in my opinion, in the garden. There are so many others though. There are these types of salvias, I believe, divide quite well. The woodland ones like Caradonna and such, they divide really well. I think Rudbeckia also divides well. I mean, most perennials, herbaceous perennials, will divide. So you can do it with so many different types of ones. And not only will it help out your plants in the regard that it'll rejuvenate them, but as I've said, it's just such a great way to get free plants. I mean, with plants being so expensive to purchase in garden centers and such, it really is a great way of saving yourself a ton of money. So I highly recommend doing this and getting as many of those free plants as possible. And not to mention, your garden will thank you for it as well. So I really hoped you enjoyed this little video on dividing perennials. It's been a lot of fun. Let me know what perennials you're considering dividing this year. What do you want to have more free plants of? I'd love to know. And don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you here on the channel.